Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Kyla, and I'm super excited for today's video because I'm going to be interviewing my dog, Vanessa Jean-Claude. Okay, this is our secretary of Made Whole. She's a Made Whole member, and she's going to be sharing her testimony of coming out of the lifestyle. And I'm really excited because over the next month, you're going to see a series of interviews from people from the Made Whole community who are sharing their testimonies. And y'all, it is so important that you guys really listen to these testimonies because there's so much deception out here in the world when it comes to leaving this lifestyle. And Made Whole is all about biblical truth. And I believe that there is power in sharing testimonies and hearing it authentically from the person who's actually been there. It's hard to lead somebody out of something that you've never been through. So we've been through this. We understand your pain. We understand the questions and the frustration. And so definitely when this comes out, you can leave your questions and we'll respond back to them at a later point. But definitely stay tuned, and I'm very excited. So welcome, Vanessa, to the Made Whole channel.
Thank you. Whatever.
Yes. All righty. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So let's start from the beginning. What was your life like before you encountered God?
Um, Before I encountered God, I really did what I want. I did what I wanted. I said that I loved God, and I would talk to God. I would talk to my friends about God, and I would always be like, hey, this is what's wrong and this is what's right, and basically I thought that I had a good relationship with God. I prayed whenever I wanted, but I didn't see it like that. I just saw it as I thought we were supposed to be praying at night and all of that stuff. So I really didn't take God seriously. I never even really thought like what, loving God was like or anything like that. So I wasn't the kind to party or anything, but I was like, in and out of everything. I'm not like, I wasn't, when I left high school, my life was just like kind of, low key. I smoked and I did whatever, but like I didn't involve myself in a lot of things. So in my mind, I thought that I was good.
So what led you to build a personal relationship? Like what point in your life were you like, okay, going to church is not enough. Like I need to know God for myself.
I think I got to a certain point in my life where I was just tired of things going the way that they were. I never, really was comfortable with the idea of being gay. I went to an all girls school when I was in my country. And so in those times, I found out, how I was like I found out that I did like girls and stuff like that, and so we were told that it was wrong, and so can you can you repeat the question real quick because I kind of lost it.
No, you're fine. So like you said, you're at this place and you're struggling with this battle because you realize that you like girls, but you've had like a discontentment in your heart. So how did you handle that? And when did you really start to feel that attraction to women?
I started feeling that attraction to women at 6 years old because I don't know. One time I was with my best friend. They put us outside because we were talking too much, and so I decided that I wanted to try out, like kissing her and stuff like that. And we were six. We were six. We were in first grade, and when we kissed, I actually thought that I really liked it, and so I wanted to keep going. I wanted to try this again. And then I was told that it was wrong, like they because it wasn't just me doing that, it was a lot of people. It's an all girls school, so the sisters, they got together and they were like, hey, you guys can't be doing that. And so at that point, I knew that it was wrong. I knew it was wrong. I never saw it in the Bible, but I knew it was wrong. I noticed that I would just like girls, like everywhere that I went, and I noticed that no one else was like that. It was me, and I couldn't even compare it to anyone else. So I couldn't even talk to anybody and be like, oh, this is how I feel, because I didn't see anyone else that was like that. And so it was just me, just seeing, the fact that I like this and I like that, but I never really did anything about it. I just like kept it, I just kept it to myself.
So you're at this point and you hadn't really kind of tested it out outside of this experience with, these schoolgirls. So at what point did it become like, okay, I'm about to be in a relationship, or I'm going, did you ever like come out publicly, or what was that process like for you?
Um, Here's what happened. When I was like at the age of um 13, I was dating like men. I tried to date boys. It just didn't work. I was so turned off. I didn't like it. I tried it many times. I didn't like it. And then the one time that I tried it with a girl, it was like fireworks. It was like so beautiful and awesome. And I just said, at that point I was like, hey, that's it. Because I got so tired of trying like dudes, and it was just so, it just didn't work. And so when I noticed like the way that it felt, I just gave in. I was just like, this is what I'm gonna do. I give up on men. I've tried it. It's not working for me. It's not real love. I don't really love them. So I'm gonna let this go. So I left that alone, and I just went the other way.
So you said a key word. You said you gave in. So was at the moment where you gave in and you just decided, you know what, I'm going to just do what makes me happy. I'm going to do what feels best for me. Was there any tension there? Because you used those specific words, I gave in.
Um, well, for one, as much as I've been fighting it, as much as I talked to God about it, and I said, God, you said that this is wrong. Like, you 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 said that this is wrong. Why won't you take this away from me? Like, from the age of 6 until 13, and I just kept saying, God, like, take this away. I would cry, like I would cry to God, and I'd be like, God, take this away. I don't want to be like that. You don't like it, so why would I want to disrespect you? That's how I thought of it, because in my heart, I felt like I loved God and I respected him, and so I wanted to do what he wanted me to do. And so I one time I had a dream. I had a dream, and I think that the dream is what really led me to being tired, because it really connected with everything that was happening with dating boys and stuff like that, and it not working. The dream was just a deal breaker, because I had a dream and I saw myself just doing things with another female, and I loved it. I loved it. And so it really brought me to be more curious, and it made me more open to going into that.
Got it. I think that's so interesting that you talked about the dream really like opening your eyes, and even at such a young age, like most people get shocked. I too had that the attractions around the age of 6, and most people were like, "That young, you knew?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like I feel like the enemy really plants those seeds when we're young, so that when we continue to grow, it feels like we were born with them or we've always had them.
Oh yeah.
So definitely. So at this point now, you've given in, and is this the point where you entered into the relationship, or did that come later?
That first person, that was my first relationship with a female. And so after that, I kind of just went on like a some kind of spiral, just dating everybody. Every you know just I was just exploring, so I just went from girl to girl to girl to girl to girl to girl, because I just wanted to be satisfied. I wanted to, um that part of me that I wanted, that wanted to feel that love, right? And so I just kept going from person to person to person, because I loved it. Like, I loved everything about it. I loved being, around females. I just, you know, so I kept going.
So now you're at this point in your testimony where you're messing around, you're exploring, you're doing all these things. So where was your relationship with God like in this particular time period?
What I did in that time, since like as Catholics, what we did was just we prayed, we said the Lord's prayer at night, and that's what I would do, and I would pray the Psalms 91 and 23. That was what prayer was like for us. But at times I would just be like, yo, like I want more. I want more of you, God. So I thought that the best way to do that was to pray more. So sometimes I would like commit myself to praying more. And so I would be like, God, tonight I'm gonna pray, or I'm gonna keep praying, and I'll never stop because I want to hold on to you, right? And then I would pray and I would pray and I would pray, and then someone would walk into my life. I would get into a relationship and I would stop praying. I would pray, with because I thought like the way that I prayed, I thought that that was the way to stay close to God. So I did it that way. The Lord's Prayer, and whatever deliverance prayers that I could get my hands on, I would do that. And I would go to church, and those meetings that they would have, the worship meetings, I would go there, and that's about it.
So at that time, did you have any like at this particular time in your testimony, did you have any conviction in your heart? So you said you were praying. Like, what was it like when you were going to pray? Because I want to ask this question because I feel like a lot of people, it's like in our hearts, we know that this is not something that God has called us to. And a lot of people say, you know what, they just gave in, they just, went their own way. So people always ask me, like, how did you have any conviction at that time period? And I feel like initially I didn't have any conviction until I had that desire, like you mentioned, to really get close. Because we say go to church, we read our word, we pray robotically to the point where it doesn't require us to be vulnerable. So, what was your conviction like at that time, or did you have any?
Um, this is how it started. People kept saying that because at one point I started to my mindset kind of changed. I was like, God loves me the way that I am, you know? Um, and so one time, I think that there was a debate somewhere. I don't remember if it was on Facebook or where it was, but I said that, like, where is it written in the Bible? Where does it say that? Right? And so someone gave me the scripture, and I looked at it and I just cried. It broke me. It broke me. I was just like, yo, you really don't want this? Like, you really don't want me to be like that? Well, if you really don't, like, if you're really serious about this, then what am I doing here? Like, why do I feel, these feelings? I'm like, something must be wrong. Something is not right. And so ever since then, like, I had this hole in my heart, and I would, meet different people, whether it be my mom or anybody. Like, anytime that they would say something, it would hurt me, and it would hurt me deeply because, some Christians have a lot of mean things to say concerning this thing. Why? Because they don't understand it. They don't know how to treat it. This is a very sensitive subject, and people are very sensitive in that area. And so I went through a lot of hurt because of that. I went through a lot of hurt in my home. My mom would say a lot of things that would hurt my feelings. People would be looking at me in weird ways in the streets because I wasn't dressed like a female, should be dressing and stuff like that. But my prayer life, I didn't really care. I said, God, you love me. I don't care. You love me, and that's it. And I would have my brother, but like as soon as God walked into his life, like he started talking to me different. I'm like, he would be like, Vanessa, this is wrong. You shouldn't be doing this. God doesn't approve. And I was like, my goodness, like he really switched sides. Like, so now you're looking at me like everybody else now. I felt like he betrayed me. And so I kind of stopped talking to him about anything concerning that. But yeah, it really hurt me. But my prayer life, did not change. I was still struggling to continue to pray. I said I'm gonna pray and I'm gonna get close to you. I would every time that I said that, it would just go back to me going back into a relationship and getting back into distraction.
And that's such a key point. I feel like the enemy knows when it's like he doesn't mind if you go to church and remain unchanged. He doesn't mind if you do whatever you want and you kind of show up, have one foot in and one foot out, but he will always bring distraction. And I'm glad that you pointed that out, because some people may not realize that that may be a cycle that they're in, where they feel that initial conviction, but then they're like, you know what? We believe this lie that even outside of same sex attraction, that, following God means that we can remain the same. Like, no, the word of God
Yeah.
transforms. But in this particular stage, so at what point were you like, okay, I can't keep going in and out? I'm starting to feel these tugs from God. What did that surrender point look like? What led up to that point?
Um, the tugs from God. Um, well, first, what really happened was I got angry one time. Something happened with my ex, and I was really angry. And I was just like, I'm going through all of this because because I went into this thing because, I like girls and stuff like that. And this is why I'm going through this. And I began to ask God so many questions. I was like, God, why is this? And why is that? Why'd you allow this? I was alone in my house, so I could speak as loud as I wanted to. I could be as angry as I wanted to. Um, and then I don't even want to say the next day, but it wasn't some time after, maybe like a week or so, my brother and I were having a conversation because me and him, we always talk and we always have these conversations, and God always, like, sometimes he will join in, like, even to this day. And so that day I was talking to him and he looked at me like straight in my eyes. And I don't know what was going on like during that time, but it felt like it wasn't him talking to me anymore. I when I tell you, it felt like Jesus was sitting right across from me and telling me that he loves me. And he was saying, Vanessa, do you know what Jesus did for you? Like, do you know like what pain like that, the Father had to be in just watching Jesus suffer? And he was just explaining to me like just how much God loved me. But I felt it in my soul that it was God talking to me at that time. And he still doesn't remember that conversation. It is what it is. But after that day, I did cry my eyes out. And I said, I'm putting my foot down. I'm going to follow you. I went to church and I closed my eyes and I said, God, I'm sorry that you died for me and I didn't care. I'm sorry that I never acknowledged the fact that you suffered for me. Like, and I never even thought about it. I never even thought about you. That was just me. That's all I said. And after that, God began to speak to me. He began to speak to me.
What were some of the things he was saying to you? Because you said at this point you're following him. What did following him or surrendering, what did that surrender point look like after you made that commitment?
Well, it was the same thing, praying at night and just making sure that I didn't have one day that I didn't pray. But one time I asked him a question and I said, like, well, how am I supposed to do this? Like, how am I supposed to? He said, isolate yourself. And I had this opportunity where I had to I was being sent somewhere to I was being sent somewhere for work. And so when I would be in that place, I would be by myself. And so I approved, I agreed to go to that place that they called me to go. It was, I was in the army for a couple of years and they were sending me out somewhere, not overseas or anything, but just for support. I was in the reserves. And so when I went out there, I was by myself. I was isolated. And this is when I really began to talk to God heart to heart. It wasn't really the routine prayers anymore, but I began to actually talk to Him and ask Him questions about my life and, just literally praying, you know, praying.
So were you still in your relationship at this point?
Um, Honestly, when I got to that point is when I was in a relationship because secretly I still wanted to, I still wanted to be with someone, because I was alone, and I wanted God, and I wanted that. And so I began to speak to this girl when I was out there, and while I was getting to know God, I was getting to know her. I was getting to know both God and her at the same time, but at the same time I began to have these strange dreams. I would see people, I would see, it was very demonic. I would have like somebody come and cut off my arm. I would see just ancestral, demonic things. And at one time I had a dream, I was laying on the floor, and there was this demonic lady, on her knees next to me, and there was like a ceremony going on around me. And so at that time I could hear like the drums and stuff like that, and I was laying right on the floor, and I was like, okay, okay, this is happening. And then I began to feel like my energy was coming off of me. Like I felt like my all the strength that I have, I felt it coming off me. And I said, Jesus, save me, save me, save me. I said, Jesus, save me. And then I felt like I was pulled out of it, and I woke up.
So what did that symbolize for you?
To me, I felt like this was a fight that began because I was beginning to choose God. And at the same time, I wanted to stay. And so the enemy was trying to get me to stay, because the person that I was in a relationship with was like the actual person that I felt like I've been looking for all my life. And so it was a fight that started. And so all of these things that were happening were just to stop what God was trying to do, because before I went on that mission, someone came and prayed over at my house, and they were like, Vanessa needs to be prayed for. They said, pray for Vanessa, pray for Vanessa, pray for Vanessa. And I knew about it, and it really made me nervous because, you know, I knew that I would have to make a choice. But in my mind, I was like, there's no way I'll be able to make that choice. I mean, like, I felt like this was impossible. I said, yo, I love this too much. I can't see myself giving up. I can't see myself giving this up. So what I did was I tried to um I tried to hold on to both God and her.
And so how did that work? When did you decide, okay, I can't keep holding on to both? What was that process like?
Um that process was it was okay. So when I came back home from my mission, I began to listen to the Bible at work. I never really knew what was in it anyways. I would listen to it. I was a mail carrier, so I had like my headphones in my ears, and I would be listening all day, just listening to the Bible all day, and singing praises to God. And so I would have these, Jamaican songs that I had on my playlist and stuff like that, and I really loved those songs. I mean, anywho, at some point, the more I listened to the Bible and the more I listened to those praise songs, I I got like less interested in the praise songs. I mean, I got less interested in the, all them dirty nasty songs that I was listening to. I really started to feel kind of. I was like, man, I want to listen to that. I want to listen to that song instead. I want to listen to the praise song. I want to praise God instead. So I would I stopped listening to the songs. I completely deleted them, and I would just listen to the Bible. And the more I did that, the more God was like talking to me. He was actually talking to me, and I would feel the presence of God in my car. I didn't have to do anything. I would get in my car, and God was there. He would give me words like encouragement words for people. I was like, oh my goodness, God is talking to me. So, I was falling in love with God because he was doing all of these things. He was being so charming. He was like in my prayer time, I felt like I had this power. Like when I began to pray, I would pray for other people, and there was just something, just a strength that was with me, that was not mine, a voice that was speaking to me, that was like another form of intelligence that was not a part of my mind. and he would speak to me. I was like, oh my goodness, it's God. And I would just be filled with the Holy Spirit. I was like, oh my goodness, this is the feeling that I feel at church. This is Jesus. And so one time, there was this song that I was listening to. It was by Miranda Curtis. It's called the Lord's Song, right? Even all this time, like as I was getting to know God, like, I still was doing me. Like, I was still doing me. And then I heard the song, and the song was just like, um, it's my desire for you to be free. It's my desire. Um, it's my desire. It says like, it's my desire, saith the Lord, for you to be free, for you to be free. The song was just so beautiful. While I was in the car, it was like the presence of God just overtook me. And it was like God was telling me, I want you to be delivered. It's my desire. Like, I didn't leave you in this. Like, I didn't want to leave you in this. I want to deliver you. Because in my heart, I used to think that, well, there's no way you even care about this. Like, deep, deep, deep in my heart. Because sometimes you could be good with God up here, but like really down here, you're not. So that's how it was. And that day I just began to cry, and I was like, oh my goodness, he does want me to be delivered. He wants to deliver me. And so at that point, I I said, all right, you can have me. You can have me. If you can do it, if you could get me out of this, let's do it. Let's do it.
So what did that process look like practically? Because right
Um,
now you're at this decision where you're making these commitments. What was the practical things that you had to walk away from in this, commitment that you've made to God now?
um, After I said that to God, I still continue to read the Bible and everything. I got really deep into it, like every day. Like, I was with my ex, and I would be listening to the Bible. And if she had a problem with it, I had a problem with her. I'd be like, "Well, what's wrong with it?" I thought it was normal that, I wanted to listen to the Bible for a 2 hour drive. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, she wanted to listen to all them songs that I used to. I didn't want to. I kind of, you know, I don't know, but something had changed in my perspective, and I didn't even know that happened. And so um, I was just wanting to, I just wanted God all the time. Say, hey, you want to pray? Like, hey, every time we were together, I was just thinking about God, like, and so at some point, I stopped wanting to interact with her in any sexual way or anything, because like my heart was breaking every time that I would try to do anything. My heart was breaking, like God. And I knew that it was God. Like, this is how God was feeling, you know with the fact that I was on both sides. Like, I wanted to keep him and her. And so I wanted to cry. Like, every time I would, be try to do anything, I would feel like I would literally want to cry. And so I kind of avoided it. I kind of avoided it. I avoided her. I never told her anything. And so one day I went to church. I went to church, and God put out like a word, and he said something about somebody that needs to be delivered, and that they had to leave this or that. My brother told me, they that word is for you. I was like, no, that word is not for me. That's somebody that's into witchcraft. They gotta leave what they doing. It ain't about me. And so I went to church again. That night, I was really overwhelmed, and I was just tired. I was just tired of having to deal with being like this, and just people looking at me a certain way all the time, and my family, just looking at me weird, and all that. And I said, deliver me, man. I can't do it. I told him, I cannot do it. I can't leave. I said, I can't leave. I love her. I love this. And I don't know how to do this. I said, deliver me. And it ain't even, I don't think like in, a minute passed. And then the guy that was praying was just like, there's someone here. You are praying to be delivered. He said, you need to make a choice. You need to make a choice. Because you've been hot, you've been cold. You need to make a choice. And if you don't make one right now, he said, I don't know how to um, basically just put it into English, but he basically said like something is gonna happen, and I knew what it was because I had already felt it. I'd been feeling like I was gonna die. I didn't know what was happening, but it's just how I felt. And when he said that, I knew exactly what God was telling me, and I knew that God was telling me to do this now. But I knew also that I had a conversation with God, and I told God, God, help me to do this like in the easiest way so that I don't have to suffer and that she doesn't have to suffer. I had that conversation with God. And that night, he was telling me to do this ASAP right now. And I felt like I didn't have no more time. And if I didn't do it, I was going to die. I didn't know when it was going to happen, but it was there. I had already been having dreams. The enemy was coming for me. I just felt like it was time. And it was showing like that also in my dreams. And so that night, I just felt like I was about to explode. So I ran out of the church and I went home and I just cried. I cried, I cried, I screamed. When I say I cried, I think that the entire building heard me because I was in so much pain and so much mental pain and so much emotional pain because I was just like, he's not giving me any time. I love this person more than anyone that I've ever been with. God, you're not giving me time. You did not give me any kind of notice that you were gonna do this. I felt like I was gonna be delivered, but I didn't know when it was gonna happen or how it was gonna happen. I thought he was gonna just let it like happen like in a smooth way, and yet he was telling me to leave now, and I felt like I had no choice. There was no way that I could even turn around and be like, I'm not doing this because I felt like so much pressure, and so I cried because I felt like I had to. I cried and I called her and I told her, you know, I can't, I told her I'm not gonna be, we're not gonna be able to do this. I think she thought that I was joking because it took her like maybe like an hour, of me telling her the same thing in order for her to get it to know that I'm not joking, and this thing is really happening. And so I hope I'm not overstepping and stuff. Yeah, and so I really I cried my eyes out. I cried my eyes out. And my brother, who had been praying for me for years, he came and he embraced me and he cried with me. And he basically it got to a point where I started to throw up, and I could not breathe. I couldn't yo and at that there is it's just it was so overwhelming because I had to let go of everything. I had to let go of the fact that I'll never be able to be with a woman again. I'll never be able to be with her again. This person whom I loved so much, whom I honestly in my mind I wanted to marry. Because I had made up my mind. I was like, God, if you don't save me, I'm gonna marry this girl. And so I cried and I cried. And at some point, I could not handle it. I couldn't breathe until my brother began to pray. And and I asked God, I said, God, take this pain away from me. This is too much. I cannot take it. Take this pain away. And so something happened in that moment. When I say I asked him to take it, I mean like I was screaming like, take it away, like right now, take it away. Like I'm hurt, bro. Like you just shocked me with this. And so I felt like a calm just come over me. I literally felt it come down over me. And I don't know if you know what it's like when you're crying and then God literally takes away your tears and you can't cry anymore. That's what happened to me.
Peace of God.
Yeah. It just took over me and I just couldn't cry no more.
So one of the things before I move on, one of the things that I want to emphasize about your testimony that you shared is that you said that you had to make a choice, like you felt that pull to make a choice. But that was actual words that was spoken out of, whoever was giving you that word. And I
Yeah.
think that that's something that I experienced as well, where it's like, first of all, when I was seeking God, I wasn't thinking about my relationship. Like I was, living both worlds. And I remember that point where it was that pressure where it was like, I need to make a choice. And sometimes I feel like it would be so much easier if he would just take it away, right? If he would just break up with the person for us, if he would, move us out into a place. But I think, the strength of God comes in those moments, just like you said, where it's like, man, I don't even have the words to do this. This is someone that I love. This is someone that I wanted to marry. And how do I walk away from this love that I felt? And so I'm so grateful that you just shared that it came your deliverance came from making a choice.
Oh yeah.
It was choosing God over that relationship, and really choosing God over, because it wasn't just a relationship that you were walking away from. That was the lifestyle that you knew. That was who you were.
Everything.
The whole identity. So let's fast forward a little bit. How many years has it been since you left that relationship?
Um, I left that relationship in March 2020.
Okay, so that's about 3 years now.
Hmm.
So in this 3 year period, what has really, yeah, we're getting into it. We're getting into it, 'cause it's hard, y'all. We're not gonna I want to share these testimonies because we're not going to sugarcoat what it's like leaving this lifestyle. It's hard. Y'all just heard her say this is someone that she loves, someone when she was considering marrying. So what has kept you anchored in these past 3 years? Like what are the revelations that you've been holding on to God? What are some of the resources that have really helped you to um, find strength in this process?
I was brought out by the strength of God. I was brought out by God's arm. I had no control over anything that happened because the moment that I left that relationship, I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I didn't know what was going on. Um, it's like it was like um, maybe God switched places with me. I don't know. That's how it felt because I think that He knew that I would not be able to handle this because knowing me, I would have gone right back and right back, and I probably would have stayed there and just dealt with the whatever judgment God gave me. I know that God had to know that, so He took over, and so I had to deal with a lot of guilt and shame because that was someone's heart that I broke, and that was someone whom I loved, whose heart I broke, and it broke me. It broke me, and what really messed with me was that she couldn't understand, and I obviously can't blame her, but I tried to explain it to her in every way, and it would not work, and God was asking me to let her go, and I was like, okay, I'll let her go. I mean, I broke up with her, but at some point he was like, you gotta let her go, let her go. You gotta stop talking to her. And so he gave me the strength to do that. It was hard. It was painful. It was a lot of back and forth. But um, I did it. And I did it with his strength because I noticed that I didn't even um, I I just had one thing, want God. I want God, I want God. I have to leave so that I can have him because I fell in love with him and I chose him. It was very hurtful, you know. Um, and I spent a lot of no months. I spent months crying, and I spent months going through depression. But God was with me, My hair locked, okay, because I didn't do it, because I just didn't care about the world, and at some point I did finally stop talking to her, but I remember that around that time, like when I had to let her go, is when I ran into you. I came up on YouTube and stuff, and I saw Made Whole. Um, and I listened to your testimony, and it was kind of, very similar to mine. Like certain things that you said, and I was like, wait, I went through that too. So this is real. This is real. Like, I mean, this is really God. Like, if someone else is you can tell, like, the similarity between the two situations. And so, obviously we would have all these prayer calls and stuff like that. And basically, God will give you. He will no. He will place everything that you need in your way. That's one thing that I realized about God. So at the time, like, he put made whole there. I needed it so bad. And you had like all these prayers and stuff going on, and I would come up on these, on these lives, and at the same time I would be going on, prayer calls and just anything that I need to do to get more of God and to learn more about him. And all those things helped me. Everything that he put in my way, it helped me, and um it helped shift me and grow me into the person that I am today. But the process of coming out, it was a lot of relying completely on God, 100%. Like, I my whole life turned upside down. My car was taken away. I had no money. It was like the enemy was like, "You leaving me? Bet I'm gonna take everything I gave you. I'm taking away." And so I didn't have no money. I had nothing. Um, but God would send like random people to send me stuff. I would have somebody be like, "Hey, I just felt like I had to send you that today." My parents, they were helping me, and they never like to help. Anywho, they helped me. Um, and my car, I don't know, everything. God was just in everything I did. I got my car back, by God's grace, and yeah, pretty much. I know I skipped over certain things. You would have to really ask me a question.
Nah, you're fine. No, I'm so grateful just for your vulnerability. Like, again, we never want to. I feel like when I was looking for testimonies, I saw a lot of God is good. My whole life is perfect. After I left my relationship, and I was sitting here like, why am I crying so much? So I'm so thankful for, again, your transparency, because you talked about the hard things. Like, it's a hard thing to go through, but you always mention how God was with you in the midst of everything that you were going through. One of the questions I did want to ask is, how did you deal? So you talked about how you dealt with the shame and the guilt of leaving and breaking the heart, and how God really healed your heart from there. How did you deal with, or did you experience any anger from having to leave, and how did you deal with that? How did God deal with you in that area?
um, I didn't. Um, Honestly, my anger was um the anger that I had. It was with me like through my whole life. I was already angry at God, but at the same time, I was like, how your parents tell you not to do something, it's wrong, and then once you find out it's wrong, and once they whoop you and stuff like that, and you're just like, okay, you know, um, that's kind of how it was. But I did go through just a back and forth, like, with why did you allow this? But it didn't last really, because like the anger that I had, I think God took it all away that night. When I tell you, I think that night was like a night of like deliverance, where God was pulling everything away. I think like demons were being cast out, like, right there. um but no, I don't believe that I went through. I do go through a lot of anger now, because now we know each other, and now we just bump heads. But besides that.
Well, thank you for really sharing your story. For anybody who is listening to the replay, you are not alone. You are not crazy for the season that you are in. And just like she said, Made Whole has so many resources available, because, again, She left in 2020. I left in 2019. So even as she was going through what she was going through, God was already preparing Made Whole for her. And so there were prayer calls. We would get on live. It would be like 11 o'clock at night on Thursdays. And I would be like, God, why are we praying at this time? Nobody's going to be praying. And we would be on that live and we would pray and we were praying about broken hearts and God would just show up. There would be there would be times where it would be such a stillness even through the phone, and God was just healing hearts and
Oh yeah.
continue to expand. We now have like weekly accountability calls where we share these testimonies and we ask and answer the hard questions that are there. And I'm so thankful for Vanessa because even at that time, like y'all, Vanessa has prayed me through some times. Okay. Like we be going through it. Like in the times where where you just deal with disappointment, you deal with hurt, you need strength. Like sometimes you get very tired, and Vanessa has been my rider in this situation. We
Glory
prayed
to
each other
God.
through. She was there at the first Made Whole experience. That was a whole testimony in itself. And so thank you again for sharing your story. Is there any advice that you would give to someone who is either feeling those pulls, those tugs from God, or they're at this point where they just feel like, I know I need to surrender, but I just feel like I just can't do it. I don't know how to let this go. Kind of advice would you?
Well, I would tell them that it's not really up to you. It's not up to you. You can't do it. You can't do it, but God can. Because that's what happened to me. I mean, I was honest with God and I said, God, I love it and I cannot do it, but you can. So take it away. And he took over. The point is that like it's not about you. It's not God telling you, hey, this is what I want you to do. I want you to leave that lifestyle. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. But it's really God telling you, come to me and I will do it. I will carry you out. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. I mean, it's written in the word. That's really what he did. What he did for me. God will literally, based on your strength, based on what you are able to do, God will take you out of it any way that He needs to. Um, yeah, it's not up to you. It's not up to you also um to deliver your ex. It's not up to you to be talking to your ex and trying to save them. It's just not gonna happen because you're not God. Like that's really God's job. And God is he's worthy of being trusted. Like he will do it. If he did it for me, he'll do it for anybody. I promise you that.
Yes, that's a good point that, we are not God as much as we want our exes to understand, or even our family members sometimes don't understand our journeys. It's up to us to just surrender to God and let Him do the rest. God's hands are big enough to carry everybody, and we don't need to be the savior. So that's a great, great point.
Oh yeah.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us for this testimony. If you want to support what we're doing at Made Whole, you can go to wearemadewhole.com/donate. We're actually in the process of developing a new program called Heal, and it's dedicated specifically for those who are 0 to 3 years in leaving the lifestyle and helping to disciple and navigate you through these transitions. In this program, we'll be talking about how to deal with Jesus in your broken heart. We'll be giving biblical principles on same-sex attraction and how to deal with that, with God, and how to really build your relationship with God, hear from Him, and grow in love and community. So definitely, we're trying to reach our goal of $15,000. We also have the Made Whole experience that happens annually, where this is our time to come in person together, fellowship, receive deliverance. So we definitely love your support with everything that we're doing. Again, you can go to wearemadewhole.com/donate. And I hope you guys stay tuned for the rest of the testimonies that are coming out for this month. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for hopping
Later.
on.
Thank you.
All right. Love you guys, and we'll see you on the next video.